Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Throughout ancient history, many have dared to confront the fearsome giants, yet most of them fell before the overwhelming strength of these towering beings. The Holy Scriptures clearly portray the power and imposing presence of giants, figures of extraordinary stature who inspired fear merely by standing in view. Still, some men of faith achieved the unthinkable. They defeated them. Among these, we reverently recall the courage of the young David, who with a mere sling faced and brought down the mighty Goliath. Other biblical heroes such as Caleb and Joshua also stood out for confronting giants during the conquest of the land of Canaan. But today, I want to tell you a lesser-known story, the tale of an ancient king who, in distant times, faced not one, but three entire nations of giants in battles marked by faith, courage, and divine purpose. An epic narrative that transcends the centuries and continues to echo with mystery. If this topic sparks your curiosity, I invite you to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with others who also love to dive deep into the enigmas of Scripture. The mystery of the king who faced armies of giants and triumphed. Genesis chapter 14 recounts an intriguing and rarely explored episode of Scripture, a large-scale war that took place in the days of the patriarch Abraham, involving an enigmatic figure named Chedorlaomer. This conflict is known as the War of the Four Kings against the Five and stands out as the Bible's first account of an international military coalition. According to the narrative, Chedorlaomer was the king of Elam, an ancient civilization located in what is now southern Iran. This detail is significant for students of biblical geography, as it helps place these ancient events within real historical and geopolitical contexts. At the time, Elam was part of a strategic region that linked Mesopotamian and Persian cultures and was renowned for its military and religious influence. The name Chedorlaomer itself offers important clues to his identity and symbolism. The Elamite expression kudur means servant, while Lagamar was the name of a deity in the Elamite pantheon, also revered in neighboring cultures such as the Babylonian and Akkadian. Interestingly, in the Akkadian language, Lagamar means merciless, a detail that adds depth to the symbolic portrayal of Chedorlaomer as a figure of unrelenting dominion. Some interpretations suggest an Assyrian root for the name as well, possibly deriving from the expression Kadarula Omer, which can be translated as he encircled the inhabited or he who besieges. Such a translation reinforces the image of a warrior king, relentless and determined to expand his domain through force. Thus, Chedorlaomer can be understood as an archetype of the merciless servant, a fated agent who brings transformation through conflict and hardship. The Jewish Encyclopedia, 1906 edition, affirms that although the name appears to be a legitimate Elamite linguistic compound, scholars continue to debate its exact origins. Babylonian and Elamite archaeological records offer few conclusive details about him. This historical silence adds yet another layer of mystery to the figure of Chedorlaomer, as if his presence in the biblical narrative serves not only as a historical reference, but as an ancestral symbol of the cycles of downfall and renewal that shape humanity's great transformations. Chronologically speaking, records suggest that Chedorlaomer was a contemporary of Abraham, ruling between approximately 1990 BC and 1954 BC. His role in the biblical account goes beyond political leadership. He is also a central figure in one of the most enigmatic and symbolically rich passages of the Old Testament, the War of the Four Kings against the Five, as recounted in Genesis 14. This narrative stands out not only because of the complex political alliances involved, but also due to the near-mythical nature of the adversaries. Among the most striking elements is the confrontation with three distinct groups of giants, the Rephaim, Zuzim, and Emim. These peoples inhabited the land before the consolidation of the Semitic tribes and are depicted as mysterious figures that challenge the genealogical logic outlined in earlier chapters of the Bible. Genesis 14 describes a dramatic conflict involving four kings, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, who joined forces to wage war against a coalition of 5 kings: Bera of Sodom, Birsha of Gomorrah, Shinab of Admah, Shemeber of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, also known as Zoar. The battle took place in the valley of Siddim, near what is now the Dead Sea. For 12 years, these 5 kingdoms had served Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. In response, Chedorlaomer and his allies launched a campaign in the 14th year, sweeping across various regions and defeating, among others, the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim. But who were these mysterious giants? Curiously, the Bible does not include them in the Table of Nations found in Genesis 10, which outlines the genealogies descending from Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. There we find the Hamites, such as the Canaanites, Egyptians, and Cushites, the Japhethites, including the Ashkenazim and the Greeks descended from Javan, and the Semites, like the Hebrews and Arabs. Yet the Rephaim, Zuzim, and Emim appear outside this genealogical framework. According to some interpretative traditions, these giants were descended from the so-called fallen angels, the NEPHILIM, mentioned in Genesis 6. These beings, originating from a union between the divine and the human, would have given rise to a separate lineage, a race of giants that survived the flood and reappeared at key moments in biblical history as figures of challenge and spiritual transgression. In this light, the battles described in Genesis 14 take on a deeper dimension, beyond physical warfare or geopolitical alliances. They become archetypal confrontations between order and chaos, between the covenantal lineage and the forces that exist outside of God's ordained creation. These giants are not merely massive beings, they are symbols of inner conflict, collective shadows, and primordial forces that humanity, like Abraham, must confront on the path of spiritual evolution. Chedorlaomer, the enigmatic king of Elam, appears not only as a powerful military leader in Genesis 14, but also as a key figure in epic confrontations with peoples the biblical tradition associates with ancient races of giants. One such battle took place in Ashtaroth Karnaim, literally Ashtaroth of the 2 horns, an ancient city located in what is now southern Syria in the towering Golan Heights. This region, marked by a long history of fierce conflict, is steeped in lore concerning the Rephaim, giants of extraordinary stature whose skeletal remains, according to tradition, still lie buried beneath the silent soil. Among the Rephaim, one figure stands out: King Og of Bashan, legendary for his colossal height, reportedly over 15 feet, 4.7 meters, tall, and for his reign over the same region. The memory of Og endures as a symbol of archaic power, challenging the very foundations of divine order. But Chedorlaomer did not only face the Rephaim. His campaign also included the defeat of the Zuzim in the land of Ham, as mentioned in Genesis 14:5. The exact location of Ham is debated. Some scholars place it in the land of Ammon, modern-day Jordan, while others associate it with regions farther south, lands traditionally linked to Ham, son of Noah, such as Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Within this framework, the Zuzim may represent a group of giants tied to the Hamitic line, an African force of mythical and ancestral origin. The name Zuzim itself carries revealing meanings: strong, inflexible, brutal, terms evoking not only physical strength, but also symbolic resistance to the transformative forces of time. In this sense, giants can be seen as ancient patterns, massive structures of power that resist change and the spiritual awakening of humanity. Even more unsettling is the symbolism of the name Rephaim, which in archaic Hebrew can also be translated as the dead or the shades. This suggests that these giants were perceived as remnants of a pre-flood era, possibly survivors of the Nephilim lineage, the so-called fallen ones who defied divine order and survived the Great Purge. Thus, the Rephaim emerge not merely as giants, embodying the burden of lost epochs and echoing the ancient struggle between light and darkness. Chedorlaomer also triumphed over the Emim, a third lineage of giants located in the region of Shaveh-Kiriathaim, near the land of Moab, which is present-day Jordan. Like the Zuzim and Rephaim, the Emim were known for their massive stature and almost mythical strength. Chedorlaomer's journey, therefore, transcends mere territorial conquest. It becomes a symbolic march against archetypal forces, manifestations of fear, chaos, and the deep traumas rooted in the collective past of humanity. The name Emim carries particularly intriguing connotations. In some interpretations, it refers to monstrous beings, terrifying creatures described not only by their physical size, but by their dreadful presence. The term can be translated as monsters or the terrible ones, hinting at a profound symbolic layer. The Emim represent forces that evoke primal fear, the kind that paralyzes, confronting us with something beyond our capacity to fully name or understand. These were the giants Chedorlaomer faced. Three ancient races echoing as archetypes of personal and collective shadows: the Rephaim, the Zuzim, and the Emim. Each occupied a distinct territory, and all were defeated by this king, who for these feats might well be called the Giant Slayer. After conquering the Rephaim in Ashtaroth-Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, possibly located in the Hamitic lands linked to ancient Africa, and the Emim in Shaveh-Kiriathaim, Chedorlaomer's campaign continued. He went on to defeat the Horites, a Canaanite people who dwelled in the mountains of Seir, modern southern Jordan, near the wilderness of El Paran. His forces then advanced to En-Mishpat, also known as Kadesh, where they subdued the territory of the Amorites at Hazazon Tamar. At this point, the stage was set for one of the most well-known confrontations in the biblical narrative, the battle in the valley of Siddim. There, 5 kings joined forces to resist the relentless advance of Chedorlaomer and his allies, the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, also called Zoar. They stood against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of nations, Goyim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5, in a lopsided struggle that would end in a decisive victory for the invading coalition. The valley of Siddim, where the battle took place, was known for its bitumen pits, natural tar traps that became symbols of chaos and destruction. During the battle, the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some of their warriors fell into the pits, while others escaped into the mountains. The land was plundered, its wealth seized, and Chedorlaomer departed like a conqueror, leaving not only material ruin behind, but also deep marks upon the spiritual history of humankind. Chedorlaomer, the feared Elamite king, had not only led a powerful coalition of kings, but had also subdued the rebellious cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it was at this dark moment that a new name arose, one marked by strength and unwavering faith: Abraham. Among the captives taken by the invaders was Lot, Abraham's nephew and the son of Haran, who had chosen to live in Sodom, drawn by the city's apparent prosperity. When one of the battle's survivors managed to escape, he ran to the great oaks of Mamre, where Abraham, referred to in the scriptures as the Hebrew, lived in alliance with the Amorites Mamre, Eshcol, and Aner. Upon hearing that his kinsman had been taken, Abraham did not hesitate. Driven by courage and a profound sense of justice, he immediately assembled 318 trained men born in his household, warriors prepared for battle. With strategy and faith, he pursued the invaders. Abraham's offensive was bold. Under the cover of night, he divided his forces and launched a surprise attack against the armies of Chedorlaomer. The tactic succeeded. The enemies were routed, and Abraham pursued them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus, in what is now Syria. There he recovered all the stolen goods and rescued Lot, his family, the women, and all the other captives. This was not merely a military victory, it was a spiritual triumph. It demonstrated that even in the face of giants and mighty kings, the man who walks with God is unconquerable. Chedorlaomer, who had once defeated giants and subdued nations, was ultimately brought down by a faithful servant. After his triumph, Abraham was received in the valley of Shaveh, also known as the King's Valley, where he had a historic encounter with the king of Sodom and with Melchizedek, the priest-king of Salem. Melchizedek brought out bread and wine and blessed Abraham, recognizing in him a warrior chosen by the Most High. This moment is more than just a tale of bravery. It is a demonstration of God's power working through his chosen. Abraham was not a king nor a conqueror. He was a shepherd, a man of faith, who dared to challenge empires by trusting in divine justice. If you've been following our series on the giants and warriors of Scripture, know that this is yet another powerful reminder. True strength does not come from the number of soldiers, but from a covenant with the Creator. Do you want to uncover more about the giants, the ancient kings, and the hidden secrets within the pages of the Bible? Explore the full playlist we've linked at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. May the God of Abraham bless you, and until the next chapter in this revealing journey through the Scriptures, see you soon.